I was taken to a young, an 18-year-old boy who was paralysed in all 4 limbs, quadriplegic, and that was because around the age of 8 he'd been beaten up by a group of youths who's basically mashed his head and brain in with rocks.
Wow.
And so he just lived for 10 years in a just lying in a little reed bed in a hut that was basically made of sticks with nothing in between them. And there was a mud fireplace for a bit of cooking, and his mum who looked after him, but they were a little tribe, so she couldn't carry him. Occasionally, some of the men from the village would carry him out and put him in the sunshine just for a bit of relief. But apart from that, his existence was just in this little hut. It was horrible to see.
Yeah.
And the mum had no hope, but all of a sudden this doctor from England arrived, and I think they invested quite a lot of hope in my medical skill. Well, I looked at this poor lad, and he was completely, all his limbs were contracted. It's what's called spastic paralysis, which means in spasm. So his legs were crossed, his arms were he was all hunched up like this. He just stared at me, couldn't speak properly or anything like that. So, and they said, "Oh, well, what can you do?" And I thought, well, medically, this is couldn't do much in the UK. You could be a bit of rehabilitation, but desperate. And my heart just went out to him and to the mum. And I thought, well, nothing I can do medically, but we can pray. So we started to pray, and I had some friends with me. And I said, right, we're going to pray, guys. We're going to pray. And everybody was on it to pray. And so what I've taught myself to do over the years is for me, prayer is an interaction with God, not just a request to God, but actually if He's answering back. So I'm learning to listen. Faith comes by hearing.
Yeah.
So I needed faith in that situation because I'm thinking a bit out of my depth in all of this. Now I'd seen things happen, some amazing miracles, but this was not. Yeah, the contextual it was horrendous. So anyway, we prayed for him, and as we were praying, God said to me, "Right, I want to take the blanket off his so you can see him." So I thought, okay. So I asked his mum through translation. She said, okay. So we took the blanket off him, and as we were praying, I noticed his arms and legs went floppy, which is called flaccid. No, still couldn't use it. It was flaccid paralysis, and all of a sudden I thought, something's happening.
That's different, yeah.
Now, what was interesting was I was able to notice that because I was a doctor. For the rest of the friends with me who weren't medical, they didn't know that how significant that was.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that the doctors should be at the forefront of healing, because they've got the eyes to understand some of the signs of what God's doing. So then I'm starting to be encouraged. I'm thinking, whoa, something's happening. And then God said to me something. He said, right, Pete, what I want you to do now is I want you to pick him up and put his feet on the ground and let him go. And I'm thinking, aren't there any steps between?
Really?
Aren't there any steps between that blanket easy? And I thought, I said to the guys who were with me, I said, this is what God's told me to do. And interestingly, one of them said, no, you can't do that. I said, why can't I do it? He said, no. And I didn't realise until afterwards that basically he had a sister who had cerebral palsy who he'd prayed for repeatedly, who hadn't been healed. So he was locked in a disappointment in that realm.
Yeah.
But my mate Andy Merrick, who was with me, said, yeah, go Pete. I'm thinking, it's easy for you to say. You're not going to do this thing.
We're right behind you.
Yeah. It was like that. And so in this desolate place, I picked him up, and he had no weight to him because he had no muscles. He hadn't used any muscles.
Yeah.
So there's no muscles there. He was literally skin and bone. So I thought, well, even if you get rid of his paralysis, he's got no muscles to use.
Yeah.
So I picked him up, and our eyes met. I think he was a bit bewildered what was going on, and I had to turn him around. I faced him towards the door of the hut, put his feet on the ground, and I let him go, and he walked out the door.
Wow. And did you even need to say anything to him, or did you just?
No.
It's like he just knew what to do.
I didn't say anything to him. I just put him, and you think, how?
Wow.
And you should have seen the eruption of joy, the emotion with his mum, eyes coming out of stalks, the young missionary couple who've been visiting him for months and months and months, they're jumping up and down.
Wow.
And he was known in that area.
Yeah.
He was known. So then he walked out.
Yeah.
Into the sunshine, and this gets me emotional. I will never, ever forget the smile that he had on his face.
Wow.
As he just looked around. And this massive smile.
Wow.
You see, that's what Medicine couldn't produce that, but God could. And
Yeah.
that's why faith is worth more than gold.
Yeah.